things that I want you to just be aware of. Number one, if there's not enough oxygen present to enter into the mitochondria, then the pyruvates will recycle around and fermentation will happen, which means low amounts of ATP are going to be made. You have to drink more glucose. So that's why they have Gatorade, because sports people, they work very anaerobically, don't get as much oxygen for cellular support, so thereby, that's where they came up with Gatorade from. So you gotta drink lots of sugar. If you drink sugar packets, if you're an endurance athlete, that's that purpose, to keep replenishing, because you're not working aerobically, you're working anaerobically. So you're gonna hit a wall if you don't get enough glucose. So there's one thing. Other things I wanna point out, ATP is only made in 3 systems: glycolysis, citric acid cycle, and oxidative phosphorylation. ATP is not made in pyruvate oxidation. Excuse me. So there's one thing that I want to point out, because that's like possible test questions. Another thing I want to point out is that CO2 is cellular waste, right? It's made in pyruvate oxidation and made in citric acid cycle. No CO2 is made in glycolysis. And when you go over fermentation, you will see how the waste product will go ahead and get those extra carbon molecules. But it's not in the form of CO2, it's in the form of lactic acid. Next thing I want to point out, glucose, 6 carbons, right? Let's draw my things here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Glucose comes in 6 carbon molecule. I'm just going to do the quickie thing. When glucose gets oxidized, electrons are removed. Those glucose will split and goes through the system, comes out as 2 pyruvates. 2 3 carbon molecules. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 pyruvates. They go through, they lose carbon, 1 CO2, they lose carbon, another CO2. You get coenzyme A's hooked, but acetyl coenzyme A is a 2 carbon molecule, and you have 2 of them. Acetyl coenzyme A. They will go into your citric acid cycle, where, let's do one at a time, okay? This one goes in, goes through, 2 come off, 2 CO2s, bye-bye. The other one goes in, 2 CO2s, bye-bye. So by the time you get through the citric acid cycle, all of your carbons are gone through exhalation as waste. Your glucose, this is like test verbiage, is completely oxidized. Does that make sense? By the time you go through citric acid cycle and finish, your glucose is completely oxidized and your carbon has been exhaled as CO2 waste. Let's see, what else? I think all the tidbits. I showed you all that good stuff up there. Showed you anaerobic versus aerobic. Yeah, we're done. We're done.